Welcome to Alberto's Universe. This is Ascension Chronicles Part 3, The Mandela Effect. We're going to continue discussing the process of ascension. In Part 1, I described how a rise in energy in the environment, in the planet, in the electron cloud, the solar system is entering, that such rise in energy would result in a rise in consciousness, our consciousness and everything else on the planet. Well, a rising energy also means a rise in frequency. This is the frequency of resonance, our frequency of resonance. We'll change in frequency, and with that, there will come changes in reality as we experience it. People who experience these changes in reality can observe changes in what is familiar. This is the Mandela effect. But first, before we dig deeper into what exactly are examples of the Mandela effect, let's look at the science side of the equation, of the subject. Let me explain more about frequencies. Quantum physics describes our universe as being only one part among an infinite number of realities, an infinite number of universes. While hard to comprehend, what else would you expect from the work of God? Whether you call it God or source or infinite creator, every possibility is existing somewhere. Here, each universe operates within a limited range of frequencies. Yes, even if the universe exists between, say, 1000 hertz and 1001 hertz, a range of just 1 hertz, an infinite number of frequencies are possible within. By the way, hertz stands for cycles per second. It's just a name given to it by scientists who study and measure frequencies. What's important is that within a 1 hertz range, an infinite number of possible frequencies can exist. Let's think about it. We said that the universe would exist between 1000 and 1001. So let's pick one frequency. 1000 dot or period 000 000 000 001. That would be one frequency. Another frequency could be 1000 dot 000 000 000 002. And of course, the next possible one could be 1000 dot 000 000 All of them have the same number of zeros. We just picked 3 different frequencies within that they all used 3, 6, 9, 12 decimal spaces after the period. Let's think of it as 12 zeros. But in reality, there's an infinite possibility of zeros after the period. So even if the universe is limited in range, a range that itself is infinite, there's an infinite number of possibilities even within that range. And the frequencies are important because each person has its own resonance. Each planet has its own resonance. Each part of Earth has its own resonance. So Florida has its own resonance. Michigan has a different resonance. Each city has its own resonance. Therefore, by changing resonance, we can travel distance. If I make myself resonate to the frequency, if I'm in Palm Beach and I make myself resonate to the frequency of Novi, Michigan, and I change my frequency, quantum physics suggests that I will appear there. If I don't change anything else but just that. But I could also change my resonance and change in time, travel in time. Well, likewise, we could change resonance and change timeline, which is actually easier than traveling in time and distance because we already resonate to where we are, we already resonate to who we are, we already resonate to every aspect of our life. We just need to change the resonance a little bit and we'll be exactly ourselves, exactly where we are, but in a different experience. Now you can see why frequencies are so important as the identifying aspect of everything in the universe. To help us understand the timeline that I'm describing, the change in timeline, I said, let us look at the Montauk Project. Now, this is a project by the U.S. government where they started traveling in time. And they took thousands of children and they used them in their experiments. Sadly, most of those children died or became dysfunctional. Only a couple survived. Stuart Swirlow is one of the survivors. These children were used in many experiments. One of the experiments dealt specifically with the differences in timelines. Children were sent back in time to a certain date to a corner in New York City. All the children in the experiment were sent to the same time, the same corner. Separately, of course. Each of them arrived at the corner and they were asked to steal the Time magazine from the newsstand just around the corner. They then brought back the stolen magazine to their present at the time. This was an experiment that was running in the 80s. It was then discovered that each magazine that they brought back was different. Now remember, they all went back to steal the same issue of the magazine. Same city, same time. Some of the magazines had a different image on the cover. Others had the title of the magazine was in a different location. Others had similar articles that were written differently. Others had different page layouts. For example, an advertisement on page 5 instead of page 7. The government concluded and understood that each child traveled back within the timeline that corresponded to each of the children. They traveled within the timeline that matched them today or at the time. In other words, they found that each person has its own past, present, and future. All very similar, but none of them identical. Each child has his own resonance. Each person has their own resonance. A resonance that matches a slightly different timeline for each one of us. We think of the past, present, and future as being universal. We think time is the same for all of us. But time is not a single line. To visualize this, imagine a freeway with an infinite number of car lanes running parallel to each other, all running in the same direction. All the car lanes are available to any of us at any given time. When we match the resonance of a car lane, we end up navigating on that lane. Think of your resonance as the ticket to ride on such lane. Our resonance, in other words, always matches the reality we experience. We see others rushing in the same direction through the parallel car lanes. They're next to us, without realizing that they're not experiencing an identical reality. Similar, it's not identical. There's a very well-known experiment in quantum physics where multiple scientists, two scientists, would look at the same particle at the same time and try to define its positioning. And they always find, let's say, the electron or the neutron to be in a different place, even though they're selecting the exact same time. Each one has their own reality, but how many times have you sat with someone and, yes, you're sitting in a room where there's a chair at the corner, but how many times have gone to the chair to see if it is absolutely identical to what the other person in the room with you is experiencing? You would almost have to look at the molecular level to see if it's the same, and you would then be surprised that it's not. But we don't notice those things. Our consciousness is low enough that we don't notice those things. And this is why when you raise your consciousness, you would begin to notice. Even if we move together with everyone else within this illustrated highway, it looks like we're all going in the same direction, we're all occupying the same space. In reality, each one has their own lane. And here, it's important to notice that our resonance is our choice. Therefore, we get to choose what lane to run in. As we ascend, we change frequency, thus changing timelines. We chose to ascend, we change timelines. And perhaps we'll notice. Some of these people that have noticed remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison, only to later see him alive and free on TV. That's why noticing that change in between what you know your past was and what you're experiencing in the present, that difference received the name of Nelson Mandela effect, or the Mandela effect for short. They noticed that the past did not match their present. But there are many more examples. For example, to illustrate one, among the Disney movies, we have Snow White. And it used to be that the wicked queen used to say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And that is now magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. In other words, it went from mirror, mirror to magic mirror. I remember the mirror, mirror, and it is now magic mirror. Some remember Looney Tunes using the spelling of Toons, tunes, double O, and now changing to Looney Tunes, Tunes. Others remembered Kit Kat, the chocolate candy, with Kit and Kat being separated by a space versus Kit and Kat being separated by a hyphen. Then there's those who remember Oscar Mayer, Mayer, and then Oscar Mayer, Meyer. There's Fruit Loops, Fruit, and then there is Fruit, Fruot Loops. Some of my friends have had changes in timelines. One of them, for example, walked her dog one day and saw that the bed of tulips that was there the day before was completely gone. The next day, walks the dog again, and the tulips are all up. Tulips don't grow in one day. We know that. I remember, because of my background, all laws relating to employment and labor were always very important for me. I thus learned them very well. I made a point of knowing the laws. And a few years back, talking to a person from HR, they made a comment where I disagreed with them. I said, no, the law says this. And they told me that this lady said, no, the law says this different. So she went and printed the law, and she was right. The law was from the same year as I remembered, but the phrasing was different. The meaning was different. I also experienced one time coming into a plant, a factory, a processing plant, where the repair shop, in other words, a very large building where all the factory equipment is repaired, being on the right side. And it was always on the right side of the entrance. Then one day, I came in, and that building was now on the left side of the entrance. In many other occasions, some of them, I even felt the change in timeline. Pay attention as you ascend. As you gain consciousness, you too will get to see these changes in timelines. Remember, embrace them because you chose them. Thank you.